One Piece, the hugely popular anime and manga about the funny pirate man named Monkey D. Luffy, is my favorite anime and manga, no questions asked. But there was a time where One Piece wasn't my favorite. In fact, I actually hated it. But I was wrong. I was very wrong. And today I'm going to tell you just how dumb I was for writing this series off, and then how I came to not just adore this silly pirate series, but how it changed my life. This is my story of how I got into Eiichiro Oda's manga masterpiece, One Piece. Now, if you're not caught up with the manga, just a warning here, but there will be spoilers, so continue at your own risk. Anyway, where do we begin? Usually, these kinds of videos will talk about how the length of One Piece is the biggest deterrent to potential fans taking the plunge, right? Well, One Piece's length wasn't the issue for me. Let's rewind the clock a bit, all the way back to 2004, when I first learned what One Piece was. I was a kid at the time, and me being the huge Sonic fan that I am, I watched Sonic X on the Fox Box, later 4Kids TV, every morning. I was looking forward to the new episodes of Sonic X to begin airing, starting with episode 27 in September of 2004. And this is when I first saw a promo for One Piece. It was bright, it was colorful, and all of the art was more cartoony than what I was used to when it came to anime. Okay, I thought, I'll give this a shot. So I did, and I thought it was one of the dumbest fucking things I had ever seen. Luffy was annoying, the art style looked like it was trying hard to be ugly, and the voice acting sounded like it was trying to be uglier than the art style. I watched Dragon Ball Z and was obsessed with it a few years earlier when I watched it on Toonami, so you would think a shonen series like One Piece would be right up my alley. But no, One Piece just wasn't it. At this point, I decided One Piece was hot garbage, so I decided I would never watch it again. To add insult to injury, a few weeks later, a Flash parody called One Piece of Crap came out, and with a name like that, I'm sure you could probably guess it was making fun of One Piece. I thought it was funny because I thought it validated the way I was already feeling about this dumb pirate show. My buddy Justin, also known as Jotpla, and I both laughed at it because we thought that's what One Piece was. It was a laughingstock. In 2004, going into 2005, I was very active on a Sonic X forum, and new episodes were about to air in France, starting with the Meta-X saga, so it was incredibly active, well, at least by early 2005 standards. Fans like myself were excited since we thought Sonic X was finished with episode 52. Sonic X wasn't the only anime being discussed on this Sonic anime forum. Members were also fans of many other anime, just like me. I had only really watched what was on TV at the time, mostly Toonami. So up until now, I preferred mostly dubbed anime due to its easy accessibility, and the only anime I'd really seen in Japanese up at this point was Sailor Moon, Doraemon, Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball GT, and Sonic X. One day, when someone created a topic titled something like, "What is your favorite anime?" I saw answers like Naruto and One Piece being mentioned, and seeing as I only primarily watched anime dubbed at the time, I didn't know what Naruto was, and I thought whoever said One Piece had incredibly shit taste. Somehow, I was able to make friends here on this forum, one of which was someone who was about 5 or 6 years older than me. We chatted over AOL Instant Messenger, or AIM, or AIM, whatever you want to call it. This guy was a huge anime fan, and he knew his stuff. So one day, when One Piece was inevitably brought up, I just couldn't wait to talk shit about this dumb dollar store hat-wearing pirate whose grin takes up his entire fucking head and yells like an absolute lunatic. This is when my friend told me I was wrong. He asked me if I had only seen One Piece on the Fox Box, and I was like, yeah? Yes, I did. That's One Piece. And I will never forget what he told me after that, even almost 2 decades later. He had told me that 4Kids killed One Piece. Yeah, it's true that 4Kids dubbed it, but there's that annoying, ugly-ass art style, and the dub seems to match it perfectly. He told me that the art style is an acquired taste, and that the Japanese version of the show is honestly worth watching every second of. So I promised him that I would give One Piece in Japanese a shot. And another friend I was talking to at the time from that forum even said Luffy is like Japan's Mickey Mouse. Okay, I was shocked at this point that this dumb, annoying show was actually kind of a big deal in Japan. So I googled it, and I found that this show had about 230 episodes at the time. Wow, that's kind of a lot, I thought. But it's not anywhere near as long as the 3 Dragon Ball shows combined, which totaled 508 episodes. So I thought I would give One Piece a shot. Summer break was coming up, so I had the time. However, it wasn't easy since I had to find fan-subbed episodes to download, and most, if not all of the episodes, were in batches of 20 or so, and only available as torrents. At this point, I had never torrented anything in my life. For those of you who don't know, torrenting is a peer-to-peer method for file sharing, and was usually done to primarily download a large file or large collection of files, and it would usually download faster if more people downloaded it and shared it with others, otherwise known as seeding. YouTube was only months old at this time, and not really in the public's eye yet, and the closest thing we had to streaming were websites that played Flash videos like Newgrounds or Funny Junk. So streaming as it exists today wasn't a thing at the time. So, did I mention that torrenting takes a long time? Like days or even a week or two, depending on how many people are seeding it? I was trying to download the first batch of 20 episodes of One Piece, and I got impatient, and I decided to just focus on my schoolwork instead, seeing as our final exams were coming up and I didn't have my own computer yet. I had to share the family computer. After I graduated 8th grade, I actually got my own computer as a gift, and I finally had the whole summer to myself to try this whole torrenting thing again. And another friend of mine from that very same forum convinced me to try out Naruto, which I mentioned I had never actually heard of until recently, and that its dub had yet to air. So I found a torrent for a smaller batch of episodes for Naruto, just the first 5 or so, I think, and this was my test. After about a day or so, the torrent was complete, and my buddy Justin and I would watch these episodes over and over. We loved it so much, and I even burned them to VCD, which is basically kind of like a CD that functions like a shitty DVD, and we watched them on my CRT TV. And figuring out how to get video files to play from your computer to play on your TV, especially as a 14-year-old in 2005, made me feel like a badass, not gonna lie. Especially for a show that hadn't yet aired on Toonami. So, I finally managed to get BitTorrent to work with Naruto. So, that means it was time to try One Piece again. So, I began re-downloading the first 20 episodes of One Piece, and at this time, I also managed to find the One Piece OVA, Defeat Him, the Pirate Gonzak, by Production IG. So, seeing as this was a standalone file, I managed to torrent this one and get it downloaded pretty quickly. This was the first time I finally managed to get to watch One Piece in Japanese, and I liked it. It was fun, and it definitely wasn't as annoying as what I watched on the Foxbox. So, my buddy told me that this one wasn't actually canon, and it's more of a movie that just kind of exists on its own, and that I should still really watch the actual show. Alright, so I let it download. In the meantime, One Piece started airing on Toonami as well, and I managed to see more episodes that I hadn't seen before, like the Arlong arc. As usual, I hated it, but I tried keeping an open mind for the Japanese version. A week or so later, the torrent finished downloading, and I managed to watch all 20 episodes. And you know what? I really liked it. Luffy was silly, but he wasn't bombastically aggravating like he was in the 4Kids dub. In this version, not only was he actually funny, but he was cool. He felt genuine. Zoro was badass, and Nami was cool, and the biggest surprise was definitely Usopp. Oh my god, what a difference there was with this character. In the dub, I thought Usopp was the most annoying character of them all. This dude was not only hideous, but he also spoke with the most grating, shitty-ass voice in the main cast. I thought he was a complete joke. But once I saw the Japanese version, Usopp quickly became a favorite of mine. He was the funniest, he was the most relatable, and even though he had the quirkiest design by far, he also felt like the most normal guy. a fish out of water compared to all the other wacky and strong characters. At this point, I realized I had not only gotten used to the art style, but I started to really like it. I understood that One Piece actually had serious moments despite how it looks, and its art style allowed things to feel a bit more balanced. So I reported back to my buddy that I loved what I saw and that I wanted more. He helped guide me where I could find all of the episodes, as Kaizoku fan subs had only done so much. So I had to eventually turn to other fan subgroups to get caught up. And keep in mind, there were no official subs at the time. This was the only way you could watch One Piece in Japanese. So it took about 2 months and lots of sitting in my room, but I managed to get caught up with the newest episode of One Piece, and it was either 239 or 240. It was the Water 7 arc, and Luffy had just fought my boy Usopp, and Robin was apparently responsible for shooting Iceberg. I did it! I managed to marathon One Piece, and I caught up in such a short amount of time. My thoughts? I had fallen in love with not only all of the 7 Straw Hats, but its villains too. I loved to hate Arlong. Crocodile had panache. Enel was a crazy-ass motherfucker with a god complex that only Luffy could stop. Oh, and its world. I love the concept of there being so many different themed islands. It reminded me of going from one zone to another in Sonic games. Its soft, goofy humor knew when to hit, and I would also love it when we got to see the crew just chill for a while on the Going Merry, almost as if it were a slice of life. This crew absolutely felt like a family, and I loved being along for the ride. I had already mentioned what my first impressions of Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Usopp were. Well, how about the other 3? Alright, well, thank God that Sanji didn't have that dumb Brooklyn voice anymore, or that sucker in his mouth. Dude actually had a way with the ladies and did some pretty cool shit sometimes. Chopper became an instant favorite. I loved his design, his backstory, and his voice actress, Ikue Otani, also voiced 2 characters that I was quite fond of up until this point. Pikachu from Pokemon and Gash from Konjiki no Gash Bell, otherwise just known as Zatch Bell here in the United States. And while we're talking about voice actors, I also realized that while I was catching up, Luffy shares the same voice actress, Mayumi Tanaka, as Kuririn, my favorite character from Dragon Ball, also just known as Krillin. How fucking cool is that? I mean, I love how there's overlap with voice actors. It's really cool how they do that sometimes. Anyway, the last but not least character, Robin. I loved her. She was the closest thing to a waifu that I've ever had. But no, really, I loved her sense of style, her darkness, which includes her sense of humor, and I really like that she started off as an antagonist that would eventually join the protagonists. So all of the characters were different and had great chemistry, and I wanted to know who was going to join next. Would it be Paulie? Or what about Frankie? Or would we get another fake out like Vivi and get someone completely unexpected like Iceberg? Or maybe just no one at all? There was only one way to find out, and that was to keep watching. But I was all caught up with the anime and I wanted more. So I talked to my friend some more and decided to switch mediums and get caught up with the manga now. This would be a completely different venture, but it would be worth it. I really wanted to know what happened next. So my only option was to turn to scanlations, since the English manga published by Viz only had the first 6 or 7 volumes published at the time, and there were no signs of it catching up to the Japanese release, like, at all. That shit was fucking slow, dude. A manga speed up for One Piece is something that they would eventually do, but that would be years later down the line, and overall, I think that's a video for another day. Anyway, my only option was to go on various MSN groups for shitty One Piece chapter scans, and adjusting to read the panels right to left was a little confusing, and the translations were pretty shoddy, but I got the hang of it pretty quickly. I think it took me about a week or 2, but I managed to get caught up from where I left off in the anime, and the current chapter that I caught up with was about chapter 380 or so, one of the earliest chapters of the Enies Lobby arc. It was actually a few chapters before Luffy first activated Gear 2nd, which is something I'm so glad I was able to see play out in real time, as the chapter was published. So, I was now caught up with One Piece, finally, and I've been reading it weekly ever since, which is 18 years ago as of this recording. So, now that I was caught up with One Piece, I got to see so many more cool things. Luffy defeating Lucci, what Gear Third actually is, the unfortunate destruction of the Going Merry, and the introduction of their new ship, the Thousand Sunny, Robin and Usopp rejoining the Straw Hats, and Frankie joining as the brand new crew member. And you know what, speaking of Frankie, I kind of had a feeling it would be him after seeing how things played out over the course of Enies Lobby. And what solidified that was the color spread that lumped him in with the rest of the Straw Hats in chapter 377, a whole 60 chapters before he joined in chapter 437. Good going, Oda. Of course, there's more that I got to see, like the revelation of Luffy's father and grandfather, Monkey D. Dragon and Monkey D. Garp respectively. Wow, okay, that explains why Dragon saved Luffy all the way back in Logtown. Okay, I dig that. And I kinda had a feeling about Garp, especially since I was familiar with the earlier versions of One Piece and his grandfather looked a lot like him. Wait, hold on though. Monkey D. Dragon and Garp? Monkey D? Their surnames are exactly the same as Luffy's, which of course isn't really that big of an issue, but it makes Ace's name, Portgas D. Ace, a little confusing. I mean, before this, I never really thought too much about it because they both have the D in their name, which is what I assume linked them, and their surname could just be different depending on the character, and they could still be family or something. But this solidified a consistent family name with Luffy, and he said Ace is his brother, but Ace's surname is Portgas. So, what gives? This literally makes no sense. Oh well, I'm sure it's not meant to be thought about too much, right? It's likely just a cool name for Ace, and you know what, I won't dwell on it for too much longer. Anyway, enough of Luffy and Ace's family names, as, yeah, I'm sure that's not important. There was way more being revealed at the time, like the existence of the Yonko, otherwise known as the Four Emperors, and Kobe's return to the story, for example. Holy shit, did Kobe grow up. So much time must have passed since the Straw Hats started sailing together, right? I wonder how long it's been, like maybe a year or two? Or maybe no time really passed at all. I mean, I know Oda said that Luffy is 17, so maybe he's just going to stay the same perpetual age for the rest of the story like Ash Ketchum or Bart Simpson or something. Either way, it's still really cool to see a sense of progression here. But that was it. Enies Lobby was a wrap, and there was so much to think about now that the arc was done. Where would it go from here though? What would the first new arc be for me now that I was all caught up? After Enies Lobby, we got to see a skirmish between Ace and Blackbeard that ended on an ominous cliffhanger, with Ace's hat just lying there. Ah well, I'm sure Ace will be fine. That's Luffy's flesh and blood after all. Still weird that he doesn't have the Monkey family surname, but whatever. Also going on around this time, it was announced that 4Kids no longer had the license to dub the anime anymore. Thank God, because not only did it give me the wrong impression, but other kids at my school dismissed One Piece too because of it. They preferred Naruto, which had a very faithful dub. And to my joy, a few months later, Funimation, of Dragon Ball and Full Metal Alchemist fame, licensed One Piece, and the dub was being worked on to premiere in the summer of 2007. And it would pick up where the 4Kids dub left off, right at the beginning of the Skypiea arc. Well, okay, this actually ended up premiering in the fall due to Toonami spamming all these Naruto marathons, but once it finally arrived, it felt like the start of a new era. On top of this, we also got some supplemental material from Funimation as well. We got our first dubbed movie, Movie 8, which gave us a peek at what the Funimation dub of Alabasta would sound like. The newest game for the Wii, Unlimited Adventure, was also dubbed in English, and the content that was way ahead of the dub wasn't removed this time. That means all of the Enies Lobby content is there, and it would be dubbed. Keep in mind that the English dub was just entering Skypiea at the time, and the anime in Japan was just wrapping up Enies Lobby. So, it was really cool to see something recent be dubbed, especially after growing accustomed to it being so far behind. I mean, the manga at this point was at Drum Island or something. That shit was truly moving at a snail's pace, and just because the games had content that was ahead of the English dub didn't guarantee that it would still be there. Many of the games that were dubbed while 4Kids had the license almost always cut the content that was ahead of where the dub was at the time. I mean, it's not like it truly mattered, I guess. When I played Grand Battle, I almost always had my TV on mute. But now with Funimation at the helm for Unlimited Adventure, this meant we got to hear characters like Frankie and Lucci, who were years away from where the dub was, speaking in English. Oh, and we could actually hear some of the new attacks and techniques spoken by the English voice actors as well. This was so cool. Maybe now One Piece will actually end up catching on now, like Naruto. Oh, I could go on and on about One Piece's Funimation dub, but that too will be a video for another day. Anyway, next up in the manga was Thriller Bark. Almost immediately after the arc began, we got to meet Brook, the walking, talking, undead singing skeleton. Right away, Luffy asked Brook to join his crew, and he said yes. Wow, that was fast. I mean, we just got Frankie, and I'm sure Oda would want to let his new member status sink in before moving on to another character, right? Ah, there it is, I knew it. Brook retracted his response and declined to join because his shadow is stolen or something, and there's some bullshit going on in this location that needs to be fixed first. That makes sense. Fast forward a bit. Wait. Brook knows Laboon? Laboon? The whale that the Straw Hats ran into right as they were entering the Grand Line? Holy shit, that is so cool and tragic at the same time. Alright, Brook is joining for sure. At least I hope he does. You never know, especially after what happened with Vivi, man. Alright, fast forward just a little bit more towards the end of this arc. The big bad, Moria, is defeated as expected, but what was unexpected was Bartholomew Kuma actually doing something. Up until this point, he was one of the most mysterious characters. He was this huge, dark, and brooding character that carried around a Bible for some reason. Yeah, weird, right? But we finally got to see him show off his powers and make people disappear, like Moria's minion, Perona, a little bit earlier in the arc. Okay, so now we can see that Kuma can extract pain from other characters and that he is a cyborg? A cyborg. Really? Like Frankie? What the fuck is going on? Anyway, it turns out that he was actually there for Luffy's head. But Zoro made Kuma a deal which allowed him to take all of the pain Luffy endured during the fight, on top of all the injuries that he sustained earlier in the arc as well. It was so fucking cool. Luffy was healed, Kuma was gone, and Moria was defeated. So, that just leaves Brook. Would he actually join the crew? My friends and I online came up with some crazy-ass theories during that arc, and it made me think that Brook wouldn't join. This is what we came up with. All of the Straw Hats don't have a unique laugh, outside of Luffy's occasional she. So that would make Brook stand out like a sore thumb. Also, all of the crew members' names were 2 syllables and Brook's was 1 syllable. Except it actually wasn't, if you took into consideration how their names are pronounced in Japanese, with some of them even having 3 syllables. Anyway, why the hell am I going on about syllables and characters' names? Yeah, that's a fucking reach. But this was a legit concern that we had over Brook not joining. But the biggest thing to consider was Laboon. Now that Brook got his shadow back, would he actually join Luffy and just have Laboon keep waiting? Or would Brook end up declining and tell Luffy that his priority lies with reuniting with Laboon? I mean, that might be the case, especially since Frankie is still new, right? It turns out Brook realized that Laboon had already waited 50 years at this point, so he could afford to wait a year or 2 more. But that still doesn't mean that he would join Luffy, right? I'm waiting for that curveball, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, and we had to wait 2 weeks to find out because of a chapter break. You know how that goes, right? But once it was back, we got our answer. Brook joined the Straw Hats, and that means Luffy finally got his musician. I thought that would just be a running gag for the rest of the series, not gonna lie. And then, that piece of paper that Ace gave Luffy, it was burning. Apparently, Ace was in big trouble. Did he actually end up losing his fight with Blackbeard? Will he be okay? I mean, nobody actually ever dies in this story, and if Luffy isn't worried about it, then we, as the viewer, shouldn't be worried about it either. So, after that, the events of the Sabaody Archipelago, all the way up to the time skip, were turbulent as fuck, and it probably deserves its own video. Really, I could keep going on and on about what I thought about each arc in this video, but I might as well make arc reviews and retrospectives sometime in the future. But man, the false sense of security that I was put into due to Oda going out of his way to prevent characters from dying absolutely shocked me. as Marineford was playing out. During my tenure of reading One Piece from 2005 all the way up until today, I have grown to love all of its characters. I learned that the art style wasn't bad just because it was different from contemporary series, and once I accepted that, I understood it, and something clicked. I have grown to adore Oda's art style. It is my absolute favorite art style in the world, and Oda is my #1 inspiration. As an artist myself, I love the creative and cartoony anime style that he came up with. I love his line work. I love his use of foreshortening. I love the cool and varied character designs with all of the cool outfits they get each arc. I love how some characters are badass looking, some are normal looking, and some are just unapologetically goofy. I love the way that he colors his pages with Copic markers, which is actually what directly inspired the way I color my artwork to this day. I actually picked up some Copic markers for myself in 2012 when my girlfriend Axel Lazuli told me that she had some. And now today, together we have a huge collection of Copic markers, which I use whenever I get around to doing traditional art. Thanks, Axel. In my animations on my Mugi Mikey channel, I always try to put nods to One Piece here and there whenever I can. Sort of like an Easter egg to other One Piece fans like myself. I fucking love it. I can't believe I actually had an issue with Luffy's smile at one point. I love his smile. It makes me smile. Luffy's smile, to me, is genuine happiness. And sometimes you just have to allow yourself to loosen up and be happy. Not everything has to be edgy. Luffy is such a positive character, and his big dumb smile reminds me to grin and bear it out even when things get difficult. If Luffy can do it, then so can I. Remember the One Piece of Crap parody I said I watched when I was a kid? I laughed at it because that's what I thought One Piece was. I was wrong. I was laughing at it for all the wrong reasons. I dismissed the entire show for all the wrong reasons. I was too dumb to realize that this parody wasn't making fun of One Piece, it was making fun of the horrible dub that I thought was One Piece. I learned to love an art style that I initially hated. Luffy, a character I once disliked because he was drawn in an unorthodox style and had an annoying dub voice, eventually became a character that I idolized. I love Luffy, not because I see myself in him, but because I'm not enough like him. His willpower and fortitude is what I've always tried to pull from him and apply to myself. This has helped me get through high school, college, and my adulthood so far, because I've always suffered from anxiety. It's important to be able to learn from fiction, especially characters you find endearing and inspiring. And it's not just Luffy I learned from either. Zoro has taught me that even when you're lost, you'll find your way. Nami has taught me that learning to trust is important. Usopp has taught me that it's okay to make mistakes and be brave. Sanji has taught me that I should always finish the food on my plate. Chopper has taught me that it's okay to be yourself, even if others don't understand you, especially if it benefits you and your friends. Robin has taught me that even when all seems lost, it's worth hanging on for those that love you. Frankie has taught me that existing as you are isn't a crime. Brooke has taught me that keeping a promise makes you a man. Jinbei has taught me that it's okay to forgive yourself. And lastly, the Going Merry has taught me that it's worth pushing yourself a little bit farther if it can make all the difference. Obviously, a lot has happened in One Piece since I began reading it. I have seen Luffy develop his Devil Fruit powers and finally awaken them. I've seen him lose his brother and find one that he thought was lost. I have seen Luffy's crew grow beside him, and I have grown up with this series. And it has not only influenced me artistically, but also fundamentally as well. Thank you, Eiichiro Oda, for creating a story that has not only entertained me for almost 2 decades now, but for creating a story that actually gave me tools to better myself with. I love One Piece, and I will continue cheering for it until the day it inevitably finishes. Reading it weekly for almost 20 years has made it a huge part of my life. And even if I don't really think about it that way, when it's over, I know there will be a void. That's why you have to enjoy what you have while you have it. All good things must come to an end, and even if the ending may not be exactly what I'm hoping for, the ride has made it incredibly worth it. Thank you so much for sitting through this video and listening to me ramble on about this silly pirate manga. But what about you? When did you get into One Piece? What has your journey been like? And maybe you haven't seen One Piece yet and you're thinking about getting into it. And if that's the case, tell me what your thoughts are about One Piece before jumping in. Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.